Hey there, welcome back to the Place Stamp Here Show. This is episode number 8. We are going to be continuing our album fill series today with the stamps that are dated 1998. There's about 58 stamps that we're going to be talking about today. Hopefully we have all of them. If you watched our last episode, we ended up with 95 out of the first 100 self-adhesive stamps that the USPS has put out since 1974. Stick around because today we're going to be going through the first 21 or so stamps that have a secret image or message on them that you can only see with the stamp decoder. We end up taking 3 chemicals off of our roster for trying to get self-adhesive stamps off of paper after some disastrous results. With some products that we've used before with success in the past that just weren't working today. And overall, we made some improvements to the format of the show, just little tweaks. We use UV light to determine the difference between 2 different varieties of a stamp. And before I get any nasty comments below, although feel free to post those if you want, we are including a semi-postal today. I decided that the 7 semi-postal stamps put out by the USPS are going to be included in this album fill series because they are first-class postage and they are all self-adhesive. So we're just going to throw them into the mix, even though they are a back of the book item. I think they're numbered like B1 through B7. But for the sake of this show, we're going to be including those with the stamps that we're going to be dealing with in the album fill series, because they're self-adhesive and they're stamps. In the meantime, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. And if I get anything wrong, just feel free to let me know in the comments below. You can write to me if you'd like. My address is P.O. Box 921, Twin Falls, Idaho, 83303-0921. And I'll put that in the video description below. So thanks for watching. All right, so we're going to sort the stamps from 1998. The last album fill special we did, the 97 stamps, there's only 22 or 23 of them. The 98, I think there's double that, like 46. So we're just going to start sorting these. And we're just doing by design. And we'll probably find some water activated gum stamps like we usually do. This is a 99. And so is this one. This is 99 too. This one is still on the original backing paper, but it has several cancels on it. Interesting. This is a water activated gum stamp. That's a 2003. This is a water activated gum stamp. Okay, it looks pretty good so far. We have the 5 flowering trees, we have the 5 big eyes, we have the 4 wreaths here, although there's 2 different versions of each of these wreaths, and I did notice some color differences on some of these. The only design I think we're missing is the Express Mail Space Shuttle stamp. It's like 1175 or something like that. There's like 3 or 4 versions of this stamp. Hopefully we have all those. There's 4 or 5 versions of this stamp. Hopefully we have all those. I think there's 2 of these. There's 3 or 4 different pheasant stamps. So yeah, we have all the designs covered except for our space shuttle stamp. So I think things are looking pretty good. All right, we're gonna go through these. We have a soaking pile here. This will be extras on paper. These will be the ones I'm going to put in my album. This is a slogan cancel, so I'm going to stick this here. And this is socked on the nose, so we're going to stick that there. That's still on the backing paper. This one's damaged. We're going to stick that there for right now. And this one can just be extras on paper. Put that here. This has a tour on it. We're going to put that in the soaking pile for the tours. Let's move this over. This is one of the first semi-postals put out by the US. So we're going to put this one in our album. Now these ones, we're just going to make sure there's no water-activated gum stamps. And this is a water-activated gum, so that's going to go in a different pile. This one actually has a plate number on there. We're going to stick that right here for now. That's about it for what I got. But what I'm going to do with this guy, because this is the only copy of this stamp I have, and it's still on that backing paper, and this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to attach this to a piece of paper, and then I'm going to soak it off. I'm just going to, if this backing paper will come off, I'm going to peel this off of there. And I don't know how this got into the mail stream, still on the backing paper, but I'm not too worried about the how. But yeah, I'm going to stick this right here. Get that on there pretty good. And I'm just going to cut it off this piece of paper here. And I'm going to soak that. So let me get that set up and I'll be back. Alright, so we're ready to soak those 98 stamps. And I did something a little different this time. I took the time to pull the stamps we're going to soak onto a stock book page. These are the ones we're going to soak with water. We're trying to get a good representation of the number of designs. I showed you guys this stamp that was on its backing paper still, and I took that off and put it on a piece of black paper. But what I didn't notice was this stamp was also still on the backing paper. So I took that off the backing paper and just put on a piece of white printer paper. But these three bottom ones here, these are the only copies I have at the moment. These three, they're most important to get off of paper. Whereas the rest of these, I have duplicates that are already off paper. But we're just going to see if these soak off with water or not. Just remember, until 2002 or 2006 or somewhere in between, the USPS put a thin little wafer of water-soluble gum in between the self-adhesive and the paper of the stamp to kind of help collectors get them off paper. So we're hoping that most of these come off with water. As you can see, there's about 22 designs here. I think there's 33 total for the year. And there's a couple in here, like these 4 H stamps are obviously different. So that's 4 of the 6 H stamps. So I just kind of wanted to throw those in there just to kind of see how well they peeled off of paper. And then these will be the stamps with the tours on them that we're going to try different chemicals to see what works on these, because we're kind of practicing for when we get to like 2006, 2007, when all stamps are going to need some kind of chemical bath to get them off of the paper. But the last couple episodes of the album fill series, I didn't take like a high quality scan of these stamps, and so there were a few times where I was like, did the solvent remove the postmark or the cancel? Like I wasn't sure, and I had to kind of grab a screen capture from the video. But this time I have all the stamps scanned. So like say this Share Your Life organ donor stamp comes out pearly white after we soak it in acetone or whatever, then I'll be able to come back to the scan and show what it looked like before and then what it looked like after. And then I also stuck all the stamps that might go into our album. But for example, like here's all 3 of the 22-cent Uncle Sam stamps. You can see this one's taller than this one. Those are 2 different stamps. And then you have the coil. Pour some water in here. Yeah, there's only about a ½ inch of water in there. I'm going to add a little bit more. Okay, there's about an inch in there now. There's about 28 stamps, so we're going to put 14 in here in one batch and 14 in the other. We're going to get these nice and wet, and then we're going to leave it for a couple minutes. Okay, so these have been soaking for about 10 minutes now. This came right off. All right, next one, this is a coil. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, this one's not quite ready yet. And these are just coming right off. I don't know what was wrong with that coil. While we're doing this, I'm going to grab another coil stamp, the H one. I'm going to throw this one in with the next batch of 14. And give it a second chance, so to speak. There's that coil again. Yeah, this one lost a bunch of its paper. So we're going to dump those other 14 in here. And the extra H coil we're throwing in there. Alright, so we're going to let those sit for about 10 minutes. Alright, we're back. So we're going to just start pulling these off. I'm going to leave that coil stamp in there till last. And these are practically just falling off the paper by themselves. Yeah, this one I put on, this was last night, I think. This still has some adhesive on it because I just, like I said, I just put this on last night. I should be able to roll this off. The one on the black paper, that's been on there for several days, maybe a week or 2. But like I said last night, I was setting up for this video and I noticed this one was still on the backing paper as well. So that stamp's only been on the paper for like 12 hours. But this adhesive's coming off pretty good. Which is good, because like I said, this is the only copy of the stamp we have, so I think I got it all. I'm going to do that black paper one next. And again, most of these other stamps have probably been sitting on the paper for 10 years or longer. Yeah, I shouldn't have used the black paper. That's my fault. I don't know what I was thinking. Now we do have a third of these flowering trees, and like I said, these two, I just put them on paper not too long ago, but the other one's been on there for a long time, maybe from since 1998. So hopefully that will show us that these don't all stick like this. I should try being a little bit more careful with this. But on the right side, the black paper shows you where the glue is. I'm fine with leaving that tiny, tiny bit on there because I don't want to risk damaging the stamp. So yeah, let's just tackle that third flowering tree stamp. See if this one does the same thing, or if it comes off like all the other stamps. Yeah, this is coming off way better. Just working all four sides because it's kind of caught on something in the middle. Nice. Oh, you see that? That just slid right off. Wow, that's awesome. Let's try that again, just to see if it slides off. Yep. Nice. And here's that coil. This might be the problem child of this generation, so to speak. Caught on the middle. Based on what the last one did, I'm going to let this soak for a little bit longer. And now that it's kind of exposed to the water more, maybe it'll get to that middle part. In the meantime, I'm going to get the drawing book out and put some of these in the drawing book. All right, it's been a few more minutes. We're just going to see if this H stamp comes off. It came off, but that might be a thin patch in the middle there. So soak these with caution, these coil stamps. I mean, it's only 2 examples. It's not a very big sample size, but you're kind of paying attention to these. Here's all the stamps on the drying book. So we're going to put this under some pressure and some weight, kind of get these, some of these corners are curling up to go flat. So one thing I wanted to show you guys before I start, this is the glass jar that I had the Everclear in. You could see that there's still, I mean, it's kind of hard to see because the camera's upside down, but there's about 3/4 of an inch or an inch left, about as much of that Everclear that I poured in there. But the acetone, I didn't have a ton of acetone in here, but it's all gone. There's like no fluid in there at all. So this all evaporated in the jar. So if I'm going to use this in the future, I need to just use what I got and dispose of it. I'm going to take this outside and open it because I have no idea what kind of gases are in there. And it feels like there's some pressure. I'm gonna go do that and then I'll be back. First stamp we're going to start on is we're going to do acetone versus this breast cancer stamp. The reason why I'm picking this one is you can see the top third of the stamp or so is covered with Scotch tape. So I'm not going to use a whole lot of acetone. I'm just going to put this in there. Now you'll probably see the black ink disappear right away from the cancel. And I think it might be eating some of the other ink as well. Yeah, it is. See, it's eating the blue, the green, the orange. And this is pretty instant. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, so I'm going to try the new stuff with this stamp. And this stamp has kind of been sliced off on one side. So I'm not too worried about whether or not this stuff works on there. But this is Desolvent Contractor Solvent. It says it's surface safe, so it shouldn't eat the plastic. Versus this H booklet stamp that has a side trimmed off. Oh, didn't mean to get that much of a splash radius. Oh well. Okay, so that's on there pretty good. We're going to flip it. So far the design seems safe versus that acetone stamp. I'm going to put one of these coil stamps in there as well and see what the spray feature does. That's a little bit better than the stream. And while that's going, take that jar of Everclear versus the coil H stamp. And I'm using the jar from the 1997 episode. Again, I don't know if this stuff loses potency or if it's reusable. But we're just going to let that soak in there for a while. I can see the cancel already coming off a little bit. We'll give that a few minutes. Alright, so we're going to go for this damage stamp. It's been sitting in this stuff for, I don't know, 3 minutes or so. So it is pulling off the paper. That worked pretty good. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there's a diagonal gash separating some of the die cuts from that stamp. And this one hasn't been on as long, but I'm going to see if it's already ready to go. Remember, these coils didn't do too great in the water. Still giving some resistance, I feel like. So I'm going to let that soak a little bit more. Well, taking some of the paper with it. I'm going to put this back in the Everclear. This is that acetone stamp. First mission is to get that Scotch tape off. Okay, so alright, so this is coming off pretty good. It's still see some Scotch tape on there. That came right off. Of course, took the ink with it and give that a little bit more of a bath. All right, let's check this coil stamp again. That's really gripping the paper. What I want to do is put one of those coil stamps in this bath of nail polish remover. It's going to give you a comparison here real quick. Okay, so we're going to take this coil stamp versus the acetone. The black ink from the cancel is definitely fading. Check this guy again. Now it is taking paper from the envelope and not from the stamp, which is good, I guess. Alright, so we're trying to get the rest of that paper off. We're going to check on this stamp in the acetone. There we go. Got some purchase under there. Just gonna slide my tongs underneath this thing. Alright, that was the easiest so far, getting these coil stamps off. It still feels like a little bit of glue on the back still, and it lost its cancel, so partially. This is that Everclear, so you can see if we can get some of that blue paper off. This definitely feels like it faded the cancel a bit. To kind of compare it to the acetone stamp. It's the acetone on the left and the 151 proof Everclear on the right. It looks like it might have eaten some of the black in the top hat, but they both faded the cancels. The stamps we're going to work on are these pheasant stamps, and of course one of the coil stamps. This time we're going to use some Goof Off. This is pheasant stamp versus Goof Off, H coil stamp versus Goof Off. Oh boy. Well, that just ate the ink. We might have to take Goof off the roster of stuff to get stamps off with. It's going to eat random stamps. Well, that hasn't been on there very long. This is definitely getting the coil stamp off. Oh, the ink was coming off. Wow, so there's something about Goof Off that ate these two stamps. Hasn't happened before. Wow. Well, got the stamps off right away. But yeah, that's a big bust. All right, now we're gonna try Sylvester and Tweedy stamp. The corner's bent pretty bad, and another of these coils. This is gonna be Goo versus Sylvester and Tweedy stamp and the H coil. Kind of let that soak in for a minute. It's definitely getting the stamp off. You know what? I think I'm just going to soak the rest of these with water. It was doing so well. I do have one more coil stamp I want to try with some crud cutter or maybe some pure citrus. But in the meantime, I'm just going to let these guys soak for a little while. This is the guy that's in the Goo Gone. I'm just going to say this is a bust for using this on the coil. It just doesn't want to come up. I'm going to leave it in there for a little longer. While those two are soaking, I'm going to take, could be a coil stamp, but it's damaged, and one of these breast cancer stamps. I'm going to spray them with pure citrus. The pure citrus versus the H coil stamp and versus the breast cancer awareness semi-postal. Okay, we're going to try this guy again, just to kind of see if he's going to pop up or not. I'm being a little rougher than I usually would. It kind of worked, but not really. Oops, can't see that. This is kind of ripping up a lot of paper. This just did not work with the H coil stamp. This was the Goo Gone. My last H coil stamp. I'm going to try something that last time we used it, it destroyed the stamp. This is crud cutter. And this is a concentrate, so I think I'm supposed to dilute this in water. But yeah, that's eating ink right away on that stamp. Still not a good choice to use. Wow, that's impressive. This is basically whitewashing the paper here. But let's see if it helps remove the stamp from the paper. Well, the paper's falling apart, so I don't think so. So yeah, crud cutter is still a bust. This is going to make a mess. I'm almost done with soaking those stamps on the right there. This is the citrus, the pure citrus orange spray. And that took the coil stamp right off. I mean, it took 10 minutes, but it kind of messed up the ink though. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend using the pure citrus on these either because it took some of that black out of the base of the cap, and it did remove some of the cancel. This is coming off way easier than that flag stamp. And there's a nice base stamp here with a patterned paper there. Usually the pattern's only on the back and not on the front of the paper, so that's kind of unique. I'm just going to see if there's any glue on this stamp. Yes. Oh wow, lots. So this doesn't look too bad compared to how it looked before. Okay, it's been about 12 minutes. I think these will be good. This is another coil. See how this does. Pretty good. That was another coil. It just rolled right off. Alright, that's it for the soaking mode. Stay tuned, we will be back in a day or 2 or 3 to put these into our album. Thanks for watching. The first page is that first batch of like 29 stamps that we just soaked off with water. And if you remember, our biggest concern was these 3 stamps here. We have that stockbook page. And then these should be all extras. All right, and that's it for the drawing book. All right, we made it to album day. So we got this ready to go. We got majority of the stamps we're going to be using right here. The first stamps we're doing today is this set of 5 flowering tree stamps. These are Scott 3193 through 3197. First one is a southern magnolia. This grows like along the southeast United States. Each of these stamps has a picture of the seed of the tree plus a flower with some of the leaves around it. The second one is Palo Verde. This tree's a member of the pea family. You can see the little seed pod on there. Native Americans used to eat these. They probably still do. And this grows in the Southwest, like in Arizona and California. Next one is yellow poplar tree. It's also known as the tulip tree. It's the only tulip native to North America. And I think it mostly grows like in the east of the United States. The next one is a prairie crab apple. And from its name, it basically grows in the prairies of the Midwest. The last stamp is the Pacific dogwood, and there's some of these in Idaho where I live. Now this Cinco de Mayo stamp was a joint issue with Mexico, and they reprinted this design of the stamp in 1999, but with a 33-cent value. Alright, that page is done. Now the next one is the Sylvester and Tweedy stamp. This is the regular commemorative issue. It has die cuts around this stamp right here. And this is Scott 3204. And this is the imperforate version. This is Scott 3205. That stamp on the right there doesn't have any die cuts in it. Whereas the 9 on the right, on the left side do. And another way you can tell the difference between these 2 sheets is see how the die cuts of the stamp on the Bugs Bunny side there, how they don't penetrate this paper. Well, on the imperforate version, they do. You can kind of see the die cut lines there. You can even see like the wavy lines that separate the stamps there. Part of the reason why they did that is so that they could separate singles of this and still have it like in a mint condition on the backing paper. Whereas this one doesn't have that at all. Second of 5 in a Looney Tunes stamp series that they did. And also in that album I bought, it has a version of both of these without the gum on it, or without the adhesive. This one has the die cuts and this one doesn't. So some people just collect the pane of the single stamp, and some people will collect like the whole pane with the 10 stamps on it. But there is a spot for a single of this stamp, and for some reason I already have that in my album. That must have survived the purge when I pulled all the self-adhesive stamps out. But the next stamp is going to be the Wisconsin stamp. This stamp just celebrates the 150th anniversary of the statehood of Wisconsin. Now the next stamp is Scott number 3207 capital A. Often when there's a distinctive difference between two stamps, but they don't have enough Scott numbers, they use a capital letter to let you know this is like a major issue, versus a small letter like 3207A small or lowercase b, which is a large date version of the stamp. This is a small date version. Here's the small date. This is the water activated gum stamp. Between the two of these, they made like 1.5 billion of these stamps. This is a nonprofit stamp. It costs about 5 cents for nonprofit organizations to send out mailers. I think we do have the large and small date of the wetlands nonprofit. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. It's going to be kind of hard to do, but I thought the difference was going to be more obvious. I noticed going through my stamps, there was a number of them that have this kind of darker 1998 on the top and a lighter 1998 on the bottom. But as far as I could tell, they seem to be about the same size date on there. If you get these two dates lined up just right. We're talking about like 0.2 of a millimeter here. So if we get this right there, oops, you get another straight edge along the other side of the dates. It feels like the one on the bottom is larger than the one on the top. I can kind of isolate those two images there. There. So we do have the small and the large date versions of this stamp. This wasn't the large one, so I'm going to put that right there. Okay, so there's 3207A. Here's 3207AB. The next stamp is going to be 3208A. This is the diner stamp. This is a pre-sort first class. I did happen to have a perforated version of this stamp, which I haven't put in my album yet, so I'm going to do that right now. But here's the self-adhesive. If you look closely at the dates here, you'll see that the water activated gum stamp has a larger 1998 date than the self-adhesive one. And I believe these cost 25 cents. Bulk mailers who send out junk mail, well, not supposed to call it junk mail, supposed to call it bulk business mail, they would get a discount if they pre-sorted the letters. And part of the reason why you don't want to send something first class is because nonprofit and bulk rate or pre-sort standard, those don't have all the benefits that a first class letter does, like forwarding service and return to sender. The bulk mailers, if it's not addressed properly to somebody or the person doesn't live there anymore, the mail carriers can just recycle those. All right, so that page is done. Okay, we got 7 on this page. This bicycle stamp is pre-sort standard, which just means the junk mailers can send these out and only cost them 10 cents versus 32 cents. And there is a large date version of this one as well, which I didn't see. So we're going to be keeping an eye out for that. And this is the organ donor stamp. And it's just to raise awareness to be an organ donor because there's a lot of people that need organs. Now the next stamps are going to be these Bright Eyes series. These stamps, they have like 5 of the most popular pets in the US: dogs, cats, fish, birds, and hamsters. These stamps, as well as like that Wisconsin stamp and a couple of other ones we're dealing with, are part of the stamp decoder series. I could be wrong, but I think there's like 42 stamps that were put out like between, let's say, 1996 and 2000, which had a secret design on them, which you can only see with a special decoder device. I'm going to show you here in a second. Whenever you got a set of stamps like this put in your album, it's always good to kind of start at one end and keep going to the other, because if I put these out of order, I might not have room for the middle stamps to go in. I do have two stamp decoders. These were for sale at post offices back in the late 90s. They sold for about $5 a piece. Here is what I think is the first, like the OG stamp decoder. And you can see that price tag on there, $4.95. And then I bought this one. Well, I got this one in a stamp lot I bought that had some supplies in it. But this one, before I got that one, I bought this one off of Mystic for $25. This one has a price of $6, so I'm guessing this is like the second generation or a later issue. But the reason why I spent $25 on this is because these were selling for like $50 on eBay. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to see if there's any difference between these two. Not really. As you can see here, or maybe you can see there, there's a bone on the upper left and a dog house on the right of the dog. And then it's a little hard to see, but by the fish's mouth, there's some bubbles. And then the cat on the left, there's like a little cat paw. And on the right, I'm not sure what that is. I think it's a fish. And to the right of the parrot, there's a little bird cage there. And then to the right of the hamster, there's a little hamster wheel. We just go back for a second. Here on the Wisconsin one, you can see a badger there. Kind of a detailed badger. It's kind of cool. And I believe the University of Wisconsin's mascot is a badger. The stamp in the paper says USPS, then it says Pathfinder, and it says July 1997, or July 4th, 1997. I think it says Mars Pathfinder. Yeah. And this technology called scrambled indica, I think, on these monster stamps. You can see a couple little bats to the right of Dracula's head there. And then next to Frank here, you got some lightning bolts. I can't quite make out what's next. Oh, it's like Anubis or something, some kind of Egyptian thing. Then next to the Wolfman, there's a couple of wolves howling. And then on here with the Phantom of the Opera, there's a couple of masks you can see with that technology there. I think this Air Force stamp's the first one that did this. Yeah, I think if you can see that, it says USAF, like a US Air Force with a star. But yeah, I think this was the first one. So they started that in 97. I think these 5 have them as well. I don't have 2 of these. But sometimes you gotta twist it around so you can see it. Like right there, there's like an alien landing craft or something. And that one's got one as well. They weren't exactly creative with some of these. This one also has a little alien landing craft. And the next stamp is Scott number 3243. This is just called Giving and Sharing. I'm not sure the exact reason why this exists. I think it's just to honor people who give money away to charity. All right, now we got the Madonna and Child stamp. This is Scott number 3244. So for these wreath stamps, there's basically two major sets of these. The first one is 3245 through 3248, and the other one is 3249 through 3252. Now, eventually we have a video on how to differentiate between these, and there is actually a third set. It's a variety of this one down here that has a different die cut. This one appears 11.3 by 11.7. This one is 11.4 by 11.5. So the too long didn't read version of how to tell these two apart. And unfortunately, all mine are 3249 through 3252. I don't have any of these four here. But if you were to count the teeth of the die cuts along the left and or the right side, because these can have straight edges, you're going to get 17 along the sides, and you're going to get 13 along the tops and the bottoms. And that might vary by one here and there, just based on what you consider to be a full tooth or not. Just keep that in mind. 13 by 17, that's going to be 3249 by 3245. If it had 12 along the top and the bottom and 14 along the sides, that's going to be one of the 3245 or 3248s. But we only got these ones. I'm going to put a spot for the other versions of these. Okay. Now there are four versions of this 22-cent Uncle Sam stamp. There's 2 coils and 2 booklets. The booklets actually come from the same sheet. It's kind of a weird variety. The most obvious one is the first coil is a water-activated gum stamp. So we already have that in the album somewhere. And then the 3263 is a self-adhesive coil, which we're going to put here. And then the other two are 3259 and 3259A. And 3259A, as far as I could tell, the only difference is it's slightly taller than the other one. It has a bit of a gap between the date and the bottom of the stamp. So this stamp is going to be 3259. And then this stamp supposedly is a 3259A. The catalog says it has a different die cut, but I couldn't figure out the difference. But somebody's told me that this is a 3259A. So I'm going to go with that for now, but I'm going to be checking these as I find them. Now, as for the H stamps, there's going to be basically, there's 8 stamps. These two are water-activated gum stamps. There's one that's not in the album, and then there's 5 self-adhesive stamps in here. 2 are coils and 4 are booklets, although I think technically this one's an ATM stamp. So the coils are kind of easy to figure out. One has rounded corners, one has square corners. Look here, the one on the bottom has those square corners, whereas the one on the top has kind of rounded corners. Those are rounded, and those are square. Kind of get them closer together. You can see the one on the bottom now has rounded corners, and the one on the top has square. I don't know why they didn't do an I stamp when they went to 34 cents. Maybe because they didn't have an I rate stamp. Now the remaining 3, the booklet stamps, and there is a variety of one of them. This is actually 26 or 3268B, not A. they're fairly easy to tell apart. The 3267 is going to have the teeth of the die cuts are going to kind of look like the tip of a Sharpie or the bottom of a Sharpie, where they are very kind of go straight out and then they come back in pretty straight and curved. And if you were to count along the top and the bottom, you should get like 9 along the top and 10 down the sides. Now this one is a 3268 because it's die cut basically 11 and a quarter or 11.2. Whereas this one's die cut 11. This, according to the Scott's catalog, is going to be a 3268A. And then this is just that goofy die cut 9.9. This is a 3267. And this ATM stamp has a very distinctive triangular perforation pattern, and they're pretty big, so it would stick out if we had one. Unfortunately, we do not, so we're just gonna have to keep an eye out for that. And next, we have like the priority and the express stamps, and both of them have a space shuttle on them. I don't have the $11.75 express stamp. That's probably something I'm just gonna have to buy. I do have plenty of the priority mail space shuttles. And these two also have that scattered indica. I don't know if you can see that, but it says Enterprise, Columbia, Challenger, Atlantis, Endeavour, and Discovery, which are the names of the first 6 space shuttles that are on there. That's pretty cool. And then this guy, let's see if we can find this one. And this is going to be Scott 3271. And it's pre-switch standard. This was 10 cents for bulk mailers. Now there is 2 varieties of this 1998 Eagle stamp. There's a large date, and I believe this is like a type 2 small date, and then this is a color variety. This doesn't have a specific Scott designation, but they do include that there's like a brown gold versus like a gold. So I know I have this large date somewhere. I just saw it a couple days ago, but for the life of me I can't find it right now, so we're just going to skip this for now, and then if we do find that page that it's on, we're going to come back and put that in there. All right, the next stamp we're going to do is the Madam C.J. Walker Black Heritage stamp. Now, the woman on the stamp, she was, I think, the first self-made woman millionaire. She basically kind of rose up from daughter of slaves and an orphan and working in a kitchen, and developed her own line of beauty products, particularly like hair care products. And then she had like a sales force of door-to-door salespeople in a mail order business, similar to Mary Kay, very similar to that, selling cosmetic products. Anyway, she is on Black Heritage stamp for 1998. That right there. So on this page, kind of back by where the flag over port stamps are, it has a number of different Great American Series stamps. These 3 that we're missing here are all water activated gum 32-cent stamps. There's a couple higher value ones. This one I think is a 1999, but today we're going to be doing this Mary Breckenridge stamp. It's a 77-cent stamp. And it says here she promoted childbirth and health services to women in remote areas like the Appalachian Mountains. Put that right there. Now the next stamp is the $1 Fox stamp. Now this stamp is kind of interesting in a couple different ways. First of all, it does have one of those, what's it called, scattered indica images on here. It has a fox on the left haunch, or I guess the right haunch of the fox there. And it also has some micro printing, something we haven't really talked about on this channel yet, but it does, it's already happened on several stamps. But look at his paw. I guess that's more of the branch that he's on, but if you look at the branch right there, it says Red Fox in tiny little letters. And the third interesting thing about the stamp is that there's two different versions. One came out in 1998, and that one is Scott number 3036, and that's perforated or die cut, 11.5 by 11.25. And under a UV light comes in as like a light green, whereas 3036A came out in 2002, 4 years later, but it still says 1998 on it. And that one has a die cut of 11.75 by 11. And under a UV light, it kind of glows like a greenish blue. Just kind of lay these out. We haven't used the UV light in a while. And the fourth thing that I think is interesting about the stamp is if you have a mint copy, they're selling for like $10 right now. The used one's not so much, but 10 times face value for a mint stamp's pretty good. You know, check your postage pile and see if you have one of these guys and then hold on to it. So after checking the die cuts with a multi-gauge, this is the Scott's multi-gauge right here, I was able to determine that these three are 11.75 by 11. So these are 3036As, and these 5 are 3036s because they were like 11.25 by 11.5. So I'm just going to turn the lights off and see if I can notice the difference. I'm going to put 3 of the 3036s on the bottom and then the 3 3036As on the top. Try to get some light pollution off here. I'm going to space these out a little bit. And just remember the ones on the top is supposed to be like a blue-green. And in my opinion, in this shot, the one on top does have like a more bluish tint to it. Although those two seem reversed. But I'm going to double check the one in the middle because the one on the left and the right, it seems like the design on the top's a little darker. And the one on the bottom is kind of more of a reddish color. And same here. Whereas this one is kind of reversed. Yeah, I think I messed these two up. So yeah, actually this one's the 3631A. This one's the 36 or the 3036. Put 3036A right there. So I'm happy that we have that variety. All right. There is one variety that isn't in my album. That's the 3050B, and that one's going to be 11 by 11. So there's only one coil, so that's pretty easy to figure out. So we're just going to put this one in there. All right, we're going to start measuring the other ones. Now, 3050 and 3050B, they're from booklet panes of 10, and I think the only difference is that die cut. These two, this is similar to the pineapple and citron stamps from 1997, where you had booklet panes of 5, and 4 of them, the upright ones, were the 3051s, and then the sideways one is the 3051A. Now, unfortunately, the 3051A doesn't have that funky, weird die cut on the side that's really easy to distinguish between the two, but their corners are different. Now, unfortunately, I only have 4 copies of these stamps, the booklet stamps, and there's 4 different ones, so I doubt I have all 4. So I'm just going to check the die cuts really quick. This one is die cut 11 by 11, so we're going to put that where the 3050B goes. And this one's 1125 on all 4 sides, or 3 sides. So that's a 3050. That third one was 11.25, and that fourth one was 11.25. And just for fun, I did measure these 2 stamps that we ate with the goof off, but these are both 3050Bs. They're 11 by 11. Regardless, we don't have either one of these stamps. So we're going to keep a lookout for those. So the last stamp we have to work with right now is the breast cancer stamp. Now in the beginning, we mentioned that it's a semi-postal, and that means it doesn't have a Scott number between like 1 and 5,000 1,700 or something with the general postage. It's in its own part of the back of the book with the 6 or 7 semi-postal stamps. Now this is my volume 1, so to speak, of my album. I modified it a bit, took out the first 197 pages. This has got 1 through like 770 because I'm going to be getting a hingeless album for these. And I had taken out all the stamps out of here. They're in stock books. So this album starts with like 1935, but to replace those pages, this goes through like part of 1974. But after the 1974 part is the first part of the back of the book stamps. You have like some stamps from the 70s, and then we get to semi-postal stamps. They all basically go on 2 pages. There's a second version of the breast cancer stamp from 2014, and they might have made one more after this, but we're going to be putting that breast cancer stamp right here. So we're going to put that one right in here. Well, hey, if you made it this far, if you made it to the end of the episode, we covered about 58 stamps today. We only had 43 of them to put in our album, so we were missing 15. There were 8 wreath stamps, 2 of the ringed pheasant stamps, 2 of the eagle pre-sort stamps, and then the express mail stamp, the space shuttle on the 747, the large date bicycle stamp, and the H-rate ATM stamp. I think that's it. But overall, we did pretty good. So 5 episodes into the album fill series, we are at 138 of 158, which comes out to about 87.3%. We were at 95%, now we're down to 87. Not a big deal, but there are 79 stamps in 1999 coming in the next episode. So we'll see if that percentage goes up or down in the next one. But in the meantime, I really appreciate you watching this. Feel free to subscribe, like this video, comment below. And again, you can write to me. My address is in the video description. Thanks for watching, and I hope you're all well and have a good week. All right, bye-bye.